Welcome to The Dialogue, the show that has discussions about the latest sports topics of the day. I'm your host, Daniel Campbell, and I'm here with the star of the show, Charlie Murphy. In today's episode, we will talk about the NBA playoff contenders and pretenders. We'll also discuss the ins and outs of LeBron missing the playoffs twice in 4 years with the Lakers.
Like the music.
Kind of catchy. All right, so we'll get started with the Western Conference. We'll take a look at every single playoff team. Now, I have to give a caveat. We're recording this on Wednesday morning, so we don't know who the AFC will be yet. However, I don't think it really matters. None of those teams are going to make it out. Just for the purposes of who I think it may be and who qualified as the AFC, we'll go with the Clippers as the AFC. And we'll start with them. What do you think? Are they a contender or a pretender?
Pretender. They don't have a lot of talent. So, they're good enough to make it to the AFC, but, unless there's a rash of injuries for every other team, Popovich is good, but you're not overcoming Phoenix. You play Phoenix in the first round. They got the best record, period, this year, 64-18. So, it don't matter who the AFC is in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I agree. And in fact, I think that the Phoenix Suns are going to make it to the finals probably anyway, just because there's no one to challenge them in the West. In terms of the Clippers, unless Kawhi comes back and he's fully healthy and he can hit his stride right away, there's no chance. And I don't even really want to waste any time on him.
Even if Kawhi comes back, it don't matter. You're not in basketball shape. You haven't been playing. You're not going to come back, get hot, and then force your team to the finals. So it's just not happening.
Agreed. Totally. Let's not waste any more time on them. Let's move on to the 7th seed. That's Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Go ahead.
Minnesota. They got some nice pieces there. They got some nice talent. Still, I don't think they're going all the way. I'm pretty much the same on par with them with the HC. They might win one or two games, but they play Memphis. Without John Morant, Memphis are 20-2 without your best player. That's not just coaching, that's talent, that's players. So maybe they win one or two games, maybe, but they're not beating Memphis.
Totally agree. And even in fact, if you watched that game last night, I was totally disappointed. I really like D'Angelo Russell. I don't think that he's a great point guard, but he's a very good one. And in this NBA landscape, you probably need a really great point guard to win, usually. They have my favorite NBA player right now. My favorite current NBA player is Ant-Man. Anthony Edwards is the man. I love his attitude. I love his press conferences. I love the way he plays defense. I love how he attacks the rim, his mid-range game. He shoots the three okay. I love everything about dude. And I just feel it's unfortunate that he plays for that team. If you look at that team, the biggest problem is that they have Karl Anthony Towns. Cat is terrible. For all that praise that we gave him and we thought this year that he had turned the corner right after the All-Star break, he just killed all that momentum last night. He had 11 points, like 5 rebounds, I think a steal, 2 assists or something like that. Your best players, your so-called best player, can't just go missing. He was on a milk carton last night, and that's what he typically does in big games. And I just don't see them even winning the game. I see this as a sweep.
Okay. Man, I guess I'm being too nice, man, with mine, man. Nice. I was like, okay, they might win one or two. You can get your team an off night, but
not against Memphis. Not against Memphis, who is my favorite team to watch. Probably no, Charlotte Hornets are my favorite league pass team, but
okay.
I watch a lot of Memphis as well.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on the T Wolves?
Nope. They could get swept. Maybe Ant-Man could have a couple of big games
All
that
right.
ultimately go nowhere because they're not going to make it. So,
All right. Let's move on from that. Let's because they're a waste of time, in my opinion. Um, let's go ahead and move to the sixth seed. That's going to be the Denver Nuggets.
I would say I think it's possible Denver could be Golden State just because of Golden State's injuries. Curry, we don't know when he's going to be back. Same with Draymond. Clay, I mean, he can shoot, but defensively he ain't the same. So
No,
if there's any upset where a lower seed can do it, I think Denver can do it.
I'm not a fan of Denver at all. I love Jokic. I think that he's probably the MVP. And that speaks volumes to his game that he could carry this team to the playoffs and even to a sixth seed at that. However, they're really not that good without Jamal Murray. Without I can't think of the other person, the power forward. I can't think of his name, Kevin Porter Jr. Without him, they really don't have much. I think Aaron Gordon is amazing, but he's not that second star. I like Bones Highland, another great
Okay.
rookie, but they just don't have the depth or the talent to get there. And so, for that reason, clear pretender.
Okay.
Um, let's not waste any more time on these weak teams. Let's move to the five seed. The five seed is, I
Fourth
believe,
and
it's
fifth.
Utah.
Fifth is Utah, and fourth is Dallas. This I could see going to Game 6, if not Game 7.
Yes, yes.
So probably out of the Western Conference, should be the most interesting. Should be. It's tough because I like Utah. I like them a lot. I'm going to grudgingly. I know you're probably going to disagree, not like this. I'm going to grudgingly think Dallas. I'm going to go with Dallas in 6.
No, no, I like it.
Okay.
Dallas is definitely going to get out. In fact, I think that we're robbed that Dallas is in the fourth seed. I wish that Dallas was maybe the three seed,
Okay.
just because I actually think that Dallas has enough defense and offense from Luca to actually skyrocket to the conference finals if they were on the other side of the bracket and play Phoenix. Unfortunately, they're going to play Phoenix in the second round and they're going to get destroyed. As far as Utah goes, they've just maximized their abilities. Gobert, you can't play him in the fourth quarter because basically they go small ball and then they just shoot the lights out because Gobert won't leave the paint. It's like that center in 2K that never wants to play the pick and roll and won't leave the paint, and you can just shoot threes. It's the same exact thing. That's what they do against Gobert. And in terms of Donovan Mitchell, I like him, but I think he's plateaued as a player, and we've seen the best of him. Um, I think that he's still in his prime. He's a very good player. He's just not good enough to take Utah to the next level.
Mitchell, when healthy, I've definitely seen him win games in the playoffs that they would have lost otherwise, but when healthy. And without him, it's like they're ultimately going nowhere. So
You know, guess Tyrone must be leaving.
yes, he must be.
All right.
That's fine.
Smile, you're on candid camera.
Yeah, we're
Uh,
recording that way. Have a good one.
all right. So
Uh, I think that's all the Western.
yeah, not quite. We didn't get to Phoenix, and we didn't get to Memphis. Memphis, I really like. If John Morant, I saw him play the last
Oh
two
yeah,
games. He did well. Um, I'm really excited about John Morant being back. I love Desmond Bain, Dylan Brooks, like Jaron Jackson. I could just go on and on about those guys. I think that they have. I can't remember if it's Tyus Jones or Trey Jones. It's one of the brothers that they have. Both brothers are great. They
okay.
have DeAnthony Milton. Like I love that team as a whole, and I think that they have the goods that they could actually beat uh, Phoenix.
Well, they're the only team with a shot to beat Phoenix. You know, coaching depth. Obviously, John Morant's a stud. He was good since a rookie. I kind of wonder. I mean, I understood why they picked Zion over John Morant, but point guard is the most important position. So teams might think twice in the
Yeah,
future over taking a big versus a point guard.
yeah.
Um, it's more than likely going to be Phoenix and Memphis in the Eastern Conference Finals, unless you know the only other team that could possibly make it because it's not Minnesota. Um, Denver don't have enough. It's not going to be Utah unless
Nope.
Dallas squeaks. The Mavs squeaks in there. It's probably going to be Memphis and
Yeah.
Phoenix.
So I think we're in agreement that the only contenders we have here are Phoenix, potentially Dallas, and Memphis.
Yeah, one of those three is going to represent the Western Conference Final. One of
Yeah.
those three.
So let's segue over into the Eastern Conference. Let's see what's going on over there because I think it's a lot more competitive over here. Start with the eighth seed. We'll go with the eighth seed again, Cleveland. Just assume Cleveland gets in. What do you think?
Because Cleveland's got to play the winner between Atlantic and the Hornets.
Yes.
Probably the best out of the three teams that's left, to be honest. Atlanta,
Yes.
I mean, they don't have enough talent. Trae Young, okay, he's going to do his thing. Craig Capella, he's good defensively. He's not going to give you much offensively. They traded away, I wrote down the player's name. I can't find him in my notes.
In Atlanta?
Yes, they traded away. Hold on, I wrote it right here. They traded away Cam Reddish.
Oh, yeah.
Or,
To the Knicks.
yes. Cam Reddish was actually a pretty good second, not say third option, low second, high third. He was a pretty good option, scoring, good defender. They traded him away. So, I mean, you don't have the firepower.
Yeah.
Maybe you squeak into that last spot. It's possible, but I think Cleveland better coached, better team. So,
Yeah, I think Cleveland will get in, and I think that's unfortunate for us just because they're going to get swept. The team I'm hoping for is Charlotte, honestly. I want Charlotte. It's my favorite league pass team. I watch Charlotte every night that they play. That's how much I enjoy them. And I think that they're the one team of the low seeds that no one wants to play just because they will run you to death and they play defense. I mean, hellish defense. So if they get in, it's going to be a benefit for everybody because everybody's going to get to see what I see on a nightly basis watching the Hornets. Moving on to the seventh seed of the Nets. Now we're getting into something a little interesting. What are your thoughts?
The Nets, it's the same thing I said for Denver versus Golden State. The Nets could win this. The first half of the season with Kyrie and stuff, James Harden was turbulent. But Nets actually pretty good defensive team. You know, they got some firepower. I mean, Kyrie can get off. Durant and Kyrie kind of have to get 30, 40 points every game to win. But this is probably the most interesting game in the entire Eastern Conference for this round, I think.
Yes.
This can go to game 7.
Yes.
Maybe Jason Tatum decides he don't want to lose like he did to Kevin Durant last year and he steps up. But outside of that, I would put my money on Brooklyn because they're most likely to make a deep run.
I'm going to make a buddy of mine really mad because he's a Kevin Durant fan. But I think it's Celtics in 6. And I just believe that because Brooklyn doesn't have enough. If you look at last night, that was a playoff atmosphere game. And the Nets let the Cavs back into the game multiple times. And it was the second unit that let them in. When Kevin Durant is not on the floor, they just don't have enough defensively to stop good teams. They couldn't even stop the Cavs. I mean, it's the Cavs. So when you look at that and you look at Boston, Boston has the depth. They're probably the deepest team out of all the teams on the Eastern Conference side. And for that reason, honestly, I have them going all the way to the conference finals. Let's move on to the next team, the sixth seed. That was the Bulls.
The Bulls, yeah.
Go ahead.
So we're Bulls fans, if that's not obvious, see red.
Yeah.
They could probably get swept. Like, the Bulls they won 46 games, the Bucks won 51. So they're only a handful of games back, but the Bulls can probably be swept.
Yeah.
And it hurts to say that,
It does.
There's no answer for Giannis. There's just no answer for Giannis. He's going to get off. Lopez is going to get his. Um, Bulls, okay, we got DeRozan. He's going to shoot some middies. Lonzo's out. He was huge defensively. With Lonzo in and Caruso sometimes both starting, point guards couldn't get what they want in the paint because it made up for what our big Vucevic. You know, he's an average defender, but he's not a great defender. So I just don't see. Maybe the Bulls can squeak out 1 or 2 wins if they're lucky, but you might catch Giannis missing free throws or taking a few threes. But I just don't see them beating the Bucks. Drew Holiday is good. Chris Middleton, he's good.
I see a sweep. I see broomsticks. That's what I see. I see broomsticks in our future. Um, I've stated that I watch a lot of League Pass. I watch League Pass every night. I never watch the Bulls. And the Bulls are the reason why I have League Pass. So I left Chicago, live here in Dallas, can't get Bulls games. So for that reason, I have League Pass so I can get every Bulls game. I never watch them because they're that bad. Um, and I have no faith in them. And I'm just not going to put myself through that mental turmoil. I'm not going to do it. I do enough with the Bears. So I'm not going to do it here with the Bulls, too. I got to take a break at some point. And the White Sox don't look all that promising either. So we'll see how that goes. I may just take a break from Chicago sports for a while. But the Bulls are bad. And you know my stance. I hate Vucevic. I think he needs to go. Um, he's paid way too much money to be a 15-point scorer a night. Um, he's a negative on defense, and I just think that the Bulls could do so much more with that spot if they added another maybe wing player as opposed to Vucevic. Because I don't think that you necessarily need great centers in this league. In fact, if you look at the teams that have the best centers, they're typically middle of the road. Just because centers, although they're great, they don't move the needle in terms of winning. Let's get off that because I can't do it anymore with the with the Bulls. Let's go on to Milwaukee. What are
Well,
your
I
thoughts?
want to piggyback on a second. I
Yeah,
mean, the Senators have a good center, a very good center, DeAndre Ayton.
they
So
do.
he can play in the post. He's a defender. Vucevic, we talked about maybe trading him for Clint Capella. Clint Capella. I wouldn't want Clint Capella because he's just good defensively. A center that can score is more valuable. Vooch is the third option. LeBron, when LeBron was with the Cavs, it was LeBron first option, Kyrie the second option. You know who's the third option? Who everyone gave a lot of crap for? Kevin Love.
Yeah.
Kevin Love was supposed to shoot threes, maybe post up a few times. So his point, the team Kevin Love was on before, was that the Timberwolves?
Yes.
Yeah, he was the feature point. He was the main feature. Then you go to the Cavs, the numbers went down because he's the third one. So Vooch he's got to maximize the chances and opportunities he has. It's because he's the third option now, and I like the Rosen, but I mean, as much as he shoots twos, threes are more than twos.
I'm going to go back to that Kevin Love comparison again. Fool's gold. You know what Kevin Love was? He
Well,
was a guy putting up a bunch of empty calories, empty stats on a bad team, and that's what Vucevic was for the Magic. We get him to a good team, and he goes on a milk carton at times, especially when we need him. And playing against Milwaukee against a really good center, he's going to have to play against Brooke Lopez, Bobby Porter's, and Giannis at times. And Giannis destroys him, absolutely destroys him. So,
yeah,
yeah,
Giannis is an amazing defender. He's a
he
really
is.
good.
He is. But if you're
Not
going
only
to make that type of money and be the second or third option on the team, you need to show up every single night. We need to see that from you. Um, and he's just not that guy. So,
yeah,
my stance. I wanted Ben Simmons over him, even though I don't. I think Ben Simmons is a mental midget. I think that Ben Simmons could have been more impactful as a player for the Bulls than anything that Luke could do, just because of defensive end.
see, I never wanted Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons played in Philly. You got to have a particular mindset to play in Philly. You do. You got to have a tough mindset. You can't make it there. He's gonna get crap from the Bulls from Chicago. He's gonna get crapped on by the fans. So if he can't make it there, he ain't gonna make it there. So I
Yeah.
don't want a guy who can't even shoot threes and he can hit the ball the most. good defender, good playmaker, but you got to be a threat. Zach
If
Levine is a threat.
if Luka's going to give out 15 points a game, Ben Simmons can do 10 to 12 a game. So you're only going to lose, what, 3 points, maybe
Okay.
5 points, maybe of production that you could give to DeRozan or to Levine or to Io DeSumo or somebody. I don't think that you lose any offensive production, but I think you gain a ton of defensive production, especially in the pick and roll switches. And that's why I thought he would be a better fit.
Okay.
So, but we'll never know. Alas, we'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. We did the 4 and the 5, so the 2 seed. 2 seed is we talked about Boston a little bit. Let's move on to Miami.
We did Toronto. Toronto's 5th seed.
Oh, Toronto. That's who we're missing. Toronto. Yes. Thoughts?
48-34, not a bad one. I didn't think they were going to be good. Like when Kawhi left, you could tell that was a big drop. So, Scotty Barnes, I put him down. I wrote his name down. He's been surprisingly good.
Yes.
He's a rookie.
Potential rookie of the year.
Fred VanVleet was already pretty solid, but he stepped up his game this year. So, they had a couple of underwhelming players. I don't know. I can't pronounce the guy's last name. His first name is Precious. I'm not going to chop up.
What's his name?
His first name is Precious. Precious Achawa.
Oh, yeah.
I chopped up his name. So
yeah,
he was underwhelming. And I used Chris Boucher. He was good, but he was good the last couple of seasons. This season he was underwhelming. So
I like him. Just too skinny.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say they're pretenders because obviously they're not gonna go all the way.
They're pretenders, but I think that they're the one team. They're the other team that no one wants to play, just because they're gonna beat you up, and they're so long. They've literally got a lineup where Siakam kind of goes to the point guard role, and he's only 6 foot. Well, he's 6'9", and he's literally their point guard at 6'9", and everyone else is like 7 feet tall. That's why they put Achua out there, Boucher out there, with Anunoby, Scotty Barnes. Those guys are all out there. That's a tough lineup to beat. Their defense is amazing. VanVleet is better than people give him credit for. He's actually probably a top 5 point guard, truthfully. I think that they're definitely a contender just because I think that they get the right matchup. They're going to potentially win. Also, here's the other thing. You have to have a vaccination to play in Canada. So if you are not vaccinated and you have to travel to Canada, that is going to be potentially an issue because there are players on teams in the playoffs who do not have vaccinations who may not be able to go to Canada. And it's not like it's something you can just go get tomorrow and be like, all right, yeah, I'm vaccinated. I'll play tomorrow. No, there's a whole process. So that does play a factor in the fact that potentially you may be missing really good players, key players, or even stars on your team for an extended period of time up in Canada. I think it gives them a decided advantage. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I mean, the one obvious person that wasn't vaccinated is Kyrie, but I'm looking at the bracket. I don't know how Brooklyn will end up playing the Raptors.
Well, Philly has a few players. Thibault, one of their top defenders, isn't vaccinated. Jaylen Brown isn't vaccinated for the Celtics. And there's a few questions on a few other players.
Okay.
So this could potentially be a game changer if you're missing a really key role player when it comes to having to travel to Toronto.
Yeah, because even if like you have home field, advantage, right? You get 4 games.
Right.
Well, those other 3 games, let's say you don't want to give obviously Toronto home field at all. Because if you have 4 games, that means 4 of those games you got 1, 2, or 3 players that can't play, and that could be starters or just backups that get minutes. Or if for some reason they're the away team, well then if they can force a game 7, you have 3 games where you don't play without important pieces. And game 7 can give Toronto the momentum to go ahead and win that because they pushed it. Now they believe in themselves; they can do that. So for those who get vaccinated, I mean, hey, you can pay millions of dollars here.
Yeah.
So
I don't understand that.
You
You
can,
get it vaccinated and you work a factory job or something. Hey, you're not missing out on a whole lot. You can go find another job somewhere else, paying similar money. It might be a hardship, but not a big deal. When there's millions of dollars on the line, I don't understand that mentality. There's
so
no way
I
I'm
mean,
missing
that
that
could
money.
probably that could break up some teams. I would think, in Eastern Conference, if Toronto, if they get past Philly, and I think they might be able to. I think they may able to get. We'll talk about that. If they get past Philly, and then they go 1 or 2 rounds in here, that can break up some locker rooms. It's like, all right, you don't get vaccinated. We're trying to win. Championships are forever.
All right. Let's move on to
Championships.
Philly, actually. And I'm
Okay.
going to give you a spoiler alert. I think that they could beat Philly. I
Okay.
really do. I actually have them beating Philly just
Okay.
because I don't. Joel Embiid has to stay healthy, which he has proven this year. However, I don't know if he'll stay healthy through the playoffs. We've never seen Joel Embiid stay healthy the whole season and play the playoffs as well. So I think that we'll see him wear down a bit. Big men tend to wear down a little bit in the playoffs anyway, especially if they're carrying the load.
Okay.
And then we have Pillsbury Doughboy over there, James Harden, who's clearly lost. I know people are saying he lost a step. It looks more like 5 steps. He's unreliable. I don't think they're good. They lost all their shooting that they did have. They lost Andre Drummond, their backup center. So I just don't see them progressing. If even if they beat Toronto, I don't see them going much further than that.
Uh, they traded a few people in the Ben Simmons trade. I think Steph Curry was bigger than we thought because last year in the playoffs, he made some big shots. He was scoring more than obviously Ben Simmons. He was sometimes he was the second leading scorer some games in the playoffs. So the few players that you lost just to get rid of Ben Simmons, I think hurt Philly a lot more than it helped. Because you got James Harden, like he's clearly not the same. So you have to hope that Harden's consistent. You got to hope that Embiid just stays healthy because he just when he's injured, I mean, which he's almost every year, like Anthony Davis. When he's injured, that's it. When healthy, he's a hard man to stop. Very hard. I don't think anyone can guard him.
Agreed. Agreed. And
So
you know, typically I'll wait and reserve judgment until maybe months or even years after a trade. But I think we can. It's safe to say Philly got fleeced in this trade. It was a horrible trade. They make the wrong move, um, and it's one of those few times that I actually was shocked that Daryl Morey, who I think is actually a wizard at making trades. Usually, you look at his time in Houston. It's one of the few times that I saw him lose a trade.
well, they waited too long to trade at Ben Simmons. Trading getting get James Harden on paper sounds like okay, we got the better player. But what type of player is James Harden? Because at the start of the season, he was out of shape.
Agreed,
You're
and
getting
it
paid.
just screamed the desperation.
I've never seen that. Like, us average people, we work jobs we don't like all the time, but we show up to work and we put in the work. People have paid millions of dollars, to win, and you're not putting yourself or your teammates in the best position to win. What's that say? You're gonna come in out of shape and then somehow get traded and then win it all? And it's possible, but I think they definitely created more holes just to get one person and just to get rid of one person.
Agreed, and time will tell because we'll see what they do with the cap situation next year in the offseason and with any future trades. But I think it's safe to say for now they're not very good and they're not going anywhere. All right, last team, Miami Heat.
I'll let you go first.
Oh, total pretender, man, total pretender. Um, Jimmy Butler is at the end of his prime. I like Tyler Hero, but he can't carry the team, and he's not even a starter. He comes off the bench, so he gets a lot of his points playing against second units. And although that's nice, that's kind of like a Ginobili role. It's not enough to get you over the hump. You need to have solid starters, solid players that play the majority of the game against the top talent, and I just don't see that with them. Duncan Robinson's in a slump. Bam Adebayo is probably my favorite big man to watch out of all of the big men, other than Jokic. I really enjoy Jokic, but he's probably my favorite just because he's so versatile. I like that little 15-footer he shoots. Um, those little push shots and hooks that he does, they're really nice. And he's really short. He's only 6'9", you know, for a center, and but he's got those really really long arms, and that's what really helps him on defense. But I just think he's so versatile, and I wish he was on a better team.
Uh, man, I want to say because they're the first seed. I don't want to disrespect them. Um, but the show is different. Like the Western Conference, Phoenix has 64 wins. Currently, the uh, the seventh seed, because we can't talk about the eighth yet, as Timberwolves, they have 46 wins. That's an 18 game difference between that. Miami has 53 wins, and then going by the seventh seed for Brooklyn, there's 44. So that's a 9 game difference. So that alone tells you the Eastern Conference is better, more equal, you know, than the Western. That being said, I think Miami beats whoever's the eighth seed.
Yeah,
But
that's
next
clear.
round, I can see them losing in the second, if not third round, though. But they're definitely going to get past the first round, regardless of who they play.
That's a given. But you know who they remind me of? They remind me of the 2011 Bulls. Uh, Out of all the Bulls teams, by far my favorite Bulls team of all time. Even more so than watching Michael Jeffrey Jordan do his thing. All right, those Derrick Rose Bulls teams were exciting. We loved them, galvanized the city, um, but we know they weren't good enough to beat the Heat. As much as we loved them, and we convinced ourselves just because we had the best record and because we had beat the Heat in the regular seasons, and that uh, because they looked so good in those regular seasons that they were going to take that to the postseason. And had it not been for the Heat, we'd be talking about a different story with Derrick Rose. However, the Heat were there. They had the best player. They had the two best players in the conference. Probably the three. They had the best team in terms of talent, just with those players. And the Bulls could never overcome them. And that's what we see with the Heat. The Heat are that team. They're very good in the regular season. They have a lot of talent. However, they can't overcome a team like Boston that has two legitimate superstars. They can't overcome. Uh, I don't think they can overcome a Brooklyn team, honestly, that has Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving who can just go off at any point at any time. So they're just good tryhards.
I know you mentioned Bam. He might miss the first game because a couple of days ago he was in health and safety protocol, so he might miss the first game. That might not matter in the long term, but it depends. If he's out more than one game, that could be a deal because he's huge. But
Yeah,
they're more than likely. I don't see any reason why they would lose in the first round. But after that, they would play the lowest seed. So what if Brooklyn gets in? Yeah, Brooklyn can beat them.
I'm not sure when they play because I haven't looked at the schedule, but I know that the playoffs start on Sunday. So they either play Sunday or Monday. That'll be their first
Yeah.
game. So he
Oh,
should be able
okay.
to get out of
He
the
might be back.
protocol.
Yeah. Okay. If
And I
it's
know
more
he's
than
vaccinated, so it's only 5 days. I
yeah,
know
okay.
he's vaccinated. How you know they're vaccinated? They go and play in Toronto. If they play in Toronto, they're definitely vaccinated. He does.
So which you should be fine. So we're in agreement though. So who's come? We didn't really touch on Boston.
You know, we touched on them a bit. They're probably my favorite team. Um, we could save them for last, the best for last, because they're my favorite team, honestly.
Okay, okay, okay.
And I hate to say that about Boston, but they're just so fun to watch. I love Tatum, love Jalen Brown, always have. Marcus Smart is coming to his own. He's starting to play the point guard role. You're starting to see him dish the ball everywhere. He's still got the great defense. You can isolate him and post up. I love all of that about his game. Um, the biggest key for me is whether Robert Time Lord Williams will come back. They're saying that he might be back 2 or 3 games into the first series. I'm hoping he comes back because he's the one who can give Katie the real challenge in terms of defense. Otherwise, we might see KD go off for like 50 points a game. But either way, I still think that Boston's going to win in 6.
I mean the first round in
Yeah,
six.
in the first round.
Okay, I can do six because if they play like let's say they play Cleveland, Cleveland can still win 2 games. So
No, no, no. They're playing the Nets.
okay,
Yeah.
then okay.
But Boston's my conference championship. I think they're going to the conference championship. I just don't believe they can beat Milwaukee. Um, and I don't believe that they can beat honestly, it's probably the only team I don't believe they can beat.
They can beat all the other teams.
Yeah, I think
Philly,
they can beat all
Toronto,
the other teams.
the Bulls.
Oh,
Hmm.
definitely. Now, the Bulls aren't even a factor. They won't get out of the first round. So they don't matter. Um, Boston's just the most complete team. Ever since they made that trade for Derek White, they've been amazing. Yeah, so I really love Boston. I don't know though. I really think they're the best team. I don't see anybody else challenging them but Milwaukee. Just because I think Milwaukee has Middleton who can shoot. They have Drew Holiday and of course Giannis. Brook Lopez is working his way back in, but I think they're the only ones that are complete enough. I love Horford on the Celtics. He's been great for them. Again, Tatum Brown, awesome, smart, awesome. They have some great pieces that have come off the bench. Derek White is underrated. I know he's not shooting well at the moment, but he's creating. He's a great defender. Um, Boston's the number one team that can switch in the NBA, like almost 1 through 5. They can pretty much switch on the pick and roll. There's almost nothing you can do to stop them when they switch like that, and that's a rare commodity to have.
That is a rare commodity. So let me ask you: out of the Eastern Conference, who makes it to the? Who's the last top 2 teams make it to the conference
It's
finals?
Boston and Milwaukee, in my opinion. With Milwaukee going to meet Phoenix for a rematch.
Because it's not going to be the Bulls. It's just not. And like to say that as a Bulls fan hurts. It really does. Um, the Sixers, I think it's not going to be them because they lost too much firepower. So you're overly reliant on just 2 players again. Once again, you're over reliant on 2 players.
Yep.
So um, I would say Milwaukee and Boston number 1 and 2, and then I'm gonna give 2 dark horses. I'm gonna say Brooklyn and Toronto is my 2 dark horses. One of them can sneak in.
Yeah. I would say more so Brooklyn than Toronto, but yes. Just because
Okay.
if Kyrie and Katie get hot like they were last night and they can play defensive basketball like that, for longer periods of time, like that first quarter. I don't know if you watched last night, but like that first quarter where they went on a 4-minute run where they blew. Uh, I want to say the game was like 20-25 at that point with Cleveland, and then I went to go make some soup for my wife in the kitchen, and
Oh,
I came back to the screen after making the soup, and the Brooklyn was up by it was like 40-20 at the end of the first quarter, and I was like, "Wait, what happened?" Like I was only in there for 4 minutes. What happened? If they can do that, they're going to be tough to beat. They're at least going to be a tough out, but they could potentially go all the way. But I just don't see it just because they're just not they're just not good enough with the other pieces around them.
okay. Yeah, Brooklyn, they're relying overly reliant on 2 people. I mean, obviously they got Steph Curry. Um, they got some nice pieces, but you're definitely over reliant on 2 people to have to get off. So if one of them has a bad game, they lose.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of being overly reliant on people, let's talk about the Lakers. The Lakers, the Lakers, the Lakers. I know Lakers fans got to be salty, but even more so, those LeBron sexuals got to be salty. Um, what are your thoughts on the Lakers missing the playoffs for a second time in the last 4 years of LeBron?
uh, hilarious, to be honest. Like there's no other way of saying that. Like there's so many storylines to go with here. Like, all right, LeBron James, he has so much power. He put this team together. Are players given too much power? Should the front office be allowed to do their job? Because now that's gonna be a thing now. You got everyone you wanted, and you didn't even make the plan. LeBron's an older player. He used to be able to carry teams. Now he can't. There are times where, even though he's a pretty steady scorer, he's a pretty steady player. He just couldn't carry this team, and he shouldn't have been in a position to have to carry this team. They had so much talent. When they got Russell Westbrook over DeRozan, I guess they thought Westbrook could just win us some games when AD and LeBron would be out or resting, and probably the worst free. They said that DeRozan was the worst free agent signing, and it was probably Russell Westbrook by miles.
Oh, he was
So,
traded for it, but yes.
well, okay, yeah. So,
No, but I agree with you 100%. Just to speak to that point about DeRozan, first of all, DeRozan's from LA. He's a Lakers fan. He wanted to put on for his city. I think that they should have definitely picked him up just for that reason alone, just because of the fanfare that it would have given their team. I know they're the Lakers, but it would just boost it a little more just to have someone homegrown be there. Um, but I think it speaks to a greater problem in sports, and that's should a sports. I know technically Clutch Sports is not owned by LeBron; it's owned by his friend Rich Paul. But
right.
technically, LeBron has his hands in everything, and that's where the conflict of interest comes in. Because everywhere you go with LeBron, he's going to get Clutch clients to come to his team to help his sports agency. So, with that being said, there's a conflict of interest. He's not picking the best players that necessarily fit his team. He's trying to build something that's going to propel him in the future down the line when he can once he's no longer a player and he can have that sports agency. You get Anthony Davis. Now, Anthony Davis is a very good player, but he can't stay healthy. And I also thought he didn't fit very well with LeBron, in my opinion. I know they tried to do like the Magic Kareem thing with the Lakers. That's kind of what it looked like, but it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
going to work very well. Um, he went out and got Russell Westbrook. Another player didn't fit very well. I thought it could have worked, but I just think he was a scapegoat in a lot of ways, and I think that they didn't work hard enough to try to fit the offense around him. Um, Not completely defending Westbrook, but I do think that they did set him up to fail. Um, in terms of LeBron, it's clear that he is not a top 5 player in the league anymore. He's hanging on to it by a thread as a top 10 player. I know that he was going for the scoring title. He played really well. He had a lot of assists, but none of those things translated to winning. And if you're a top player, it should translate to winning, especially if you're a top 5 or even top 10 player. The top 8 players in the league should all make the playoffs. The top 16 players should all make the playoffs. There's 16 spots in the playoffs. If you're a top 16 player in the league, you should make the playoffs. I always use the example of Kevin Garnett. And I like to use Kevin Garnett because Kevin Garnett played on those terrible Wolves teams. But yet, year after year, you would see the Wolves make the 8th seed or the 7th seed or the 6th seed every single year with those terrible teams because Kevin Garnett willed it. If you're a true superstar, that's what you'll do. Now, LeBron's great. He ain't Michael Jeffrey Jordan, but he's great. But we're starting to see the decline of him. And I'll point to your boy over there in Philly, James Harden, how they talk about he lost a step. No, LeBron's lost 5 steps again. That's where we are with him. I don't foresee him ever getting back to the greatness he was once at, especially defensively. He's modified his game to be a 3-point shooter, which is awesome. But I just don't see him being the second best player on even a championship team. He's probably third best at this point.
There's always the who's better, LeBron and Jordan. How many All Stars has Jordan played with throughout his entire career?
7. They were all Scottie Pippen. 7 times.
There was no other All Stars in the. I mean, Rodman was pretty good, right?
Yeah, never an All-Star. Horace Grant, never an All-Star.
Didn't Horace Grant became one after he left?
Yes.
Technically, okay. But other than that, all seven was Scottie Pippen. How many All Stars has LeBron played with in his entire career?
I don't know the number, but it's a lot. It's pretty much two All Stars at every turn.
Kyrie, Dwayne Wade,
Mm-hmm.
Chris Bosh, Kevin Love,
Mm-hmm.
Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis,
Yep.
Ray Allen. That's seven just from the top of my head.
Yes. I think this year was the first year he didn't have a second All Star at the All Star break.
So, I mean, maybe because I'm biased towards Jordan, but
And Mo Williams, I think, was in there somewhere with the Cavs. The first
okay.
one.
So that's eight. LeBron has played with proven talent. You know, to go to an All Star, they don't just let anyone in there now, just because you can get 30 points, in a game, but you don't get in there. So, this is hilariously disappointing because people were like, "Oh man, this team's too old, right?" And there was some memes. Then LeBron's like, "You all just watch." We watched, and you couldn't make the play-in tournament. You have all this talent, and you could not make the play-in tournament. Russell Westbrook made a comment because they fired Frank Vogel. I guess he's the scapegoat. He's like,
Yes.
"I couldn't be me. I couldn't be. You have all this talent. You can't do what you're supposed to. You can't do what you usually do. You're the point guard. You have to find a way to shape your game to elevate everyone else. That is your job as the point guard."
Now to your point about that playing game not making it, I think they actually could have made the playoff game, the playing game. They quit. LeBron sat basically the last 2 weeks of the season. Anthony Davis came back for a few games. He was clearly hurt. But LeBron, I don't think he was that hurt. I just think he quit, which is a typical LeBron move to quit. And then use the excuse that he was hurt, and that's why they didn't make the playoffs.
Because even if they make the playoffs, come on, they're getting bounced in the first round by the Heat, more than likely. They're getting bounced.
Oh, you mean by the Phoenix or Memphis? Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Phoenix or Memphis again. My bad. I'm sorry. I used to LeBron being on the Heat. I was like,
I know, right?
And I said the Heat like needed. Yeah, they're getting bounced in the first round. So maybe LeBron was smart for his legacy. Like, all right, I'm just going to be hurt, which I kind of am. And then, now there's no debate. We just didn't make it. But it's just really, if you are good, you have all this talent, this should never have happened. And I think Frank Vogel firing him is just a cop-out scapegoat, just to blame it on someone. They'll get rid of Westbrook, okay. Just another scapegoat. You got to take responsibility. You helped shape this team, LeBron. You are the most responsible person on this team.
Absolutely. So I just think that in terms of legacy, I don't think it'll hurt them all that much, just because you can compare this to the Jordan Wizard years, the forgotten years that we don't even talk about. But I just feel bad for the Lakers fans. No, I don't. But I'm enjoying it actually for the Lakers fans because they think they're going to win every year.
It's funny seeing the Lakers and the Clippers both struggle. To be perfectly honest with you, it's hilarious because even if the Clippers make it in, they lost to Timberwolves. Even if they somehow, I think the Clippers would probably win the next opponent. They're getting bounced in the first round by Phoenix.
Absolutely.
So
it's a joke. Well, any other thoughts on Contenders or Pretenders?
Phoenix, Memphis are the top two.
Yes.
And in the Western, Eastern, it's going to be Milwaukee, Boston. Finals. Who you got for the finals?
I clearly have Milwaukee and Phoenix, and I've got Milwaukee winning the second championship in a row in 6, possibly 7.
I'm going to disagree then. I'm going to go with Phoenix winning it all. They had the best season. They were the most consistent out of all of the teams.
I'd be happy for Chris Paul. If he won one, I'd be happy for him. I think it would create a big problem for Aiden since, Phoenix doesn't want to extend them. They kind of have to at that point. So I think that'd be pretty interesting.
So 64-18. That's a very impressive. That's a very impressive season. So
question.
I definitely. It's definitely going to be Phoenix, Memphis. Maybe they need another year or two. I can see Phoenix winning it all this year. They couldn't do it last year. Now you got to put it away. Chris
All right,
Paul,
so I
you
got
got
a
to
question
come to
for
you.
you.
Okay.
If Phoenix wins, does Chris Paul ride off into the sunset?
Let me. How old is Chris Paul?
I think
I'm just gonna
38.
say yes. 38. Okay. I'm gonna say yes. I think that's the only reason why he's still playing. To be perfectly honest with you, and he's playing at a high level. He's playing at a very high level. Could he play another 2, 3 years? Yes, he probably could. But I mean, he's old enough to like. How hard is it just to make the playoffs? How hard is it to win a series in the playoffs? And I mean, how many finals has he been in, Chris Paul, in his
Just the
career?
two, just the one, just the one.
Just one. So even if for some reason they win it all, like it took his entire career. You know, LeBron, man, when did he? When was the first time LeBron went to the finals? Was that his second
I
year?
think that was '07.
Oh seven.
'07. I think it was like
Pretty
four
early
years
in
in the
his
league.
career. Pretty early in his career. Chris Paul has been in the league for so many years just to get to this point. So he might. I think he retires, to be honest, because that's the only reason why I feel he's still playing. Because he could have retired, but he is playing at a high level. So, but I think he goes to the sunset. Get the ring, man. You deserved it. You worked this hard. You got the best record. This is your best chance right here.
All right. Well, we went a little bit over time, but that's all good. Had a blast talking about this. Something we could definitely talk about quite a bit. I think we both came to a consensus pretty much. Um, Phoenix, Memphis, they're contenders. On the eastern side, I think we came up with Boston, dark horse being Brooklyn, and then we came up with Milwaukee being the contenders over there. We both agree that Milwaukee's going to probably make the playoffs. I mean, playoffs, the finals, and
Playoff.
we probably both agree that Phoenix will make it. So it's going to be an interesting playoffs. Hopefully, you enjoy it. We're going to definitely enjoy it. Definitely make sure you watch us on YouTube, rate us, review us, and we'll see you next week.